get one free. Valid on select tires with installation purchase. And synthetic oil changes start at only $39.99. Find your nearest store at BigOTires.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers won their third straight game. They beat the Indiana Pacers Wednesday night 130-107 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 29 points and 8 rebounds for Kawhi Leonard. Darius Garland had 12 points and 8 assists off the bench. It was Garland's first home game for the Clippers since the February 5th trade that brought him to LA in exchange for James Harden. Garland had been sidelined for a month with a foot injury. The Lakers are at Denver tonight. The Lakers also have a 3-game winning streak. The Big Ten Conference Women's Basketball Tournament tips off today in Indianapolis. UCLA, the number 2 team in the country, is the number 1 seed in the tournament. The Bruins' first game is Friday at noon local time. They will meet the winner of today's game at noon between USC and Washington. All games in the tournament will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I believe that we will go from guttermost to uttermost. I believe that we will go from slave ship to championship. I believe that we will go from outhouse to state house to courthouse to White House. I believe.
He served alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He ran for president. He kept hope alive for millions of fellow citizens. This Friday, March 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 will carry the homegoing services of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. live from Chicago, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific. Join us as we say farewell to a giant, a preacher, a warrior, a man who never stopped fighting for justice. The homegoing service of Reverend Jesse Jackson. This Friday, live starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. You hold on and hold out. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmiley.show.com. That's thetavissmiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. On the top side of hour 2, today, Dr. Cornel West and yours truly will offer individual personal tributes to the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. in advance of our travel today to Chicago for a celebration of life services Friday and Saturday. There is some new video and new audio of Reverend Jackson from 15 years ago that surfaced yesterday. Interestingly and surprisingly, there is a Tavis connection to that video, to that audio that I knew not of, literally, for 15 years until yesterday. It was sent to me. I will share that video, that audio with you at the top of hour 2, so stick around for that. It blew me away. On the B side of hour 2, we'll be joined by Congressman Jonathan Jackson, Democrat, Illinois, and get some of his reflections about his iconic father. In the past few days, we've had Jesse Jackson Jr. on. We've had Santita Jackson on today, Jonathan Jackson. We're grateful to the family for choosing this program to offer their reflections. We'll talk to Jonathan Jackson on the backside of hour 2. In our third hour, renowned author, spiritualist, and former presidential candidate Marianne Williamson comes live in studio to discuss, among other things, the state of the world right about now, ain't it messed up, and what she calls her year-long journey into the mind of the miraculous. A year-long journey into the mind of the miraculous. Marianne Williamson, live in studio today in our third and final hour. But in this first hour, I'm delighted to welcome back to this program best-selling author, NYU law professor, and former clerk to Supreme Court Justice Sonya Sotomayor, Melissa Murray. Melissa, how are you? It's been too long.
It's been too long. Thanks so much for having me back, Tavis.
It's good to have you on the program. I want to start, there are a number of things to cover with you in this hour, and it's great to have a scholar, a legal scholar, on for the hour, a lot to unpack. I think I want to start with Pam Bondi. Who saw this coming? I'm sure by now you've all seen the story that the Attorney General was subpoenaed yesterday by the House to testify. This would be, of course, a closed-door session where you can't, act a fool like they do when the cameras are on them. You got to answer some tough questions. But over the wishes of the chairman of the committee, James Comer, it's the same James Comer that dragged in Bill Clinton, the same James Comer that dragged in Hillary Clinton. And so over his objections yesterday, Republicans, 5 of them, as I recall, sided with Democrats, and they subpoenaed Pam Bondi. What is happening inside the Trump administration, where on a variety of fronts, we see people starting to find a spine, starting to find some backbone. Most of it, I think, connected to the Epstein files. We can talk about that and why that is the case. But the Attorney General, appointed by Mr. Trump, has been subpoenaed by his own party to show up and testify. I'll pause there for the moment. Melissa Murray, did you see this coming? Are you surprised by this?
Not surprised by it, Tavis. The Epstein files has been the unique issue in the American political landscape that has managed to unite both the right and the left in their actual antipathy for the underlying conduct here. And so that we are seeing movement on this is not surprising. The fact that we got a bipartisan bill that was then signed into law to release the Epstein files speaks to how this issue has unified both the left and the right. And I think the Department of Justice's absolutely shambolic handling of the disclosure of the files is one that has prompted comment on both sides of the aisle. So this didn't surprise me. It was also not a surprise because the charge was led by Nancy Mace and was also joined by her colleague Lauren Boebert of Colorado. These two representatives have been 2 of the women in the Republican caucus who have been incredibly vocal in their apparent disgust for Mike Johnson's leadership in the House. They have talked repeatedly with other women members of the Republican caucus about his efforts to marginalize or sideline them. They've raised questions about whether there's some misogyny going on. Ladies on the left could probably say conclusively, yes, there's definitely misogyny going on here. But they haven't been happy. And I think this is part of the channeling of that anger.
So when we come forward, just getting started with Melissa Murray here, when we come forward, I've got 2 questions on the tip of my tongue right now. One is about white males, and the other is about white females. The white male question is simply this. It's impossible to read this any other way than a repudiation, a smackdown of Donald Trump by Republicans. Comer did his best, the committee chair, to stop this from happening, and they overruled him. They outvoted him. And so now as chair, he's obligated to call Pam Bondi in for a closed-door testimony. It's a smackdown of Donald Trump. We'll talk about that and how Melissa reads that. But the white woman question is simply this. You just heard Melissa detail that this was led by Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert, 2 white women. You add to that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who pushed back and said, I'm leaving. We now are starting to see, I don't want to overread this, don't want to put too much on it, but the white women who abandoned Kamala are now starting to push back on Donald Trump. How do we read that? Lots to talk about with Melissa Murray when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward. Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
An official message from Medicare.
Couple more minutes, and we'll start this month's book club.
You know, I usually love a plot twist, but this year, I'm comparing my options during Medicare open enrollment.
You can't assume your current health or drug plan is the best one for you.
And you gotta make sure your drugs are covered. That's important.
So is saving money.
Review all your options at Medicare.gov. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If a Lenovo computer for your business is on your holiday list, don't shop around. Just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com. It's your last chance to get exclusive deals on the PCs you want for your business, like the ThinkPad X9 14 Aura Edition and Yoga 7i 2-in-1. So avoid all that shopping chaos and price comparing, and just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com, where PCs are up to 35% off. That's Lenovo.com.
Lenovo. He's a paradigm pioneer and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Melissa Murray, NYU law professor, former clerk to Sonya Sotomayor, brilliant constitutional lawyer, and we're honored to have her on this program in the first hour. Lots to cover with her. Going to be a great show all 3 hours before I get out of here. Hop on a plane to Chicago to funeralize the late, great Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr., that is, Friday and Saturday. In the Windy City. Miles, check the weather there. Now, do you take my coat? I haven't checked the weather in Chicago, so let me know if I'm taking a coat from L.A. today. That's it. Glad to have Melissa on the program. So I was saying a moment ago, Melissa, that there's no other way to read this, to my mind at least, than anything other than a repudiation of Donald Trump. You recall Donald Trump, first ran, said we're going to release the Epstein files. Everybody, all the MAGA supporters were pushing him to do this. He embraced it. Fast forwarding, then he gets there, and now there's nothing to see here. And then Republicans on this same committee forced his hand. He eventually signs the bill to get Pam Bondi to release the files. Then they start piecemealing this stuff, and they start retracting all of this stuff. Blacking out stuff that people really want to see. We had Jamie Raskin on this program. And Jimmy Raskin said that he, when he went to see it as members of the House can do, went to read the files, the stuff directly. He typed in Donald Trump's name, and his name came up 1 million times. It'd been redacted. I said redacted. Over 1 million times Donald Trump's name had been redacted. Jamie Raskin mentioned that to us on this program. So Bondi starts releasing stuff, but not really. And so now she's been subpoenaed. In case you've just tuned in, we're talking about the news of yesterday that the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed AG Pam Bondi. So that's a long way of asking, Melissa, is there any other way to read this other than a repudiation of Donald Trump himself?
Well, I think this question of elite pedophilia is one that is like really mired the far right. It is a major topic of conversation when you get deep into the right-wing universe. So, I mean, I think that is certainly part of this idea that there is an elite cabal who is engaging in this kind of conduct. But yes, to the extent that this is about calling in a major figure in the president's administration into a congressional committee for what is effectively a closed-door deposition, yes, I think that's a repudiation, certainly, of the administration's handling of this, which, nothing happens without the say-so of this president and this administration. It would also then seem to be a repudiation of his direction to his AG, Pamela Jo Bondi, to conduct the disclosure in this way.
So you're not a member of the committee. You're not a Republican white woman, to be sure. We'll get to that part in a second here. But just as a law professor, what's been your read of how, in fact, Pam Bondi has failed, her department, DOJ, has failed in the handling of this matter, just from a legal perspective? What's your read of how they have, in fact, have not done the best job in handling this particular matter?
Well, I mean, there's so many ways in which this has been
take your time,
an epic fail. We can, there's a litany of things one might say. The Attorney General has repeatedly noted that the Epstein problem, l'affaire Epstein, if you will, is one that spans multiple presidential administrations. And that's certainly true. So there is blame to be laid in the failure to surface these questions and to get justice for the survivors that can be laid at many different administrations. But the truth of the matter is a law was passed under her tenure as Attorney General, a bipartisan law passed by Congress, signed by the president, directing the Department of Justice to disclose these files and to do so by a certain date. There was not compliance with that date. All of the files were not released. We kind of had the files released in various tranches. When the files were released, the statute had very specific directions as to how information would be disclosed, and there was particular care about the disclosure of information, identifying information about the victims, and the Department of Justice really did not heed those requirements of the statutes to take great care with disclosing the information of the victims. Many of them had their personal information, addresses, and many of them have noted that they've received threats from many individuals, some of them who claim to support the president, others who are just, I guess, internet trolls, because this information has been made public in this way. There have also been redactions of individuals who don't seem to be victims, but actually seem to be participants in this very complicated and vile web of conduct that Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier, spun. And so all of that, I think, can be laid at the feet of the Attorney General, Pamela Jo Bondi, who then came before Congress to discuss what had happened. And then instead of giving the American people the transparency that they deserve, she engaged in what can only be described as a Real Housewives reunion show of ad hominem attacks and talking points, where she refused to even acknowledge that the victims might be entitled to some kind of redress and certainly an apology for the way all of this has been handled.
Yeah. So there's a list of things, and she could have gone longer if she wanted to, of the ways in which Pam Bondi has failed as AG. Before I move to these white women that I raised a moment ago, let me just stay with the Department of Justice just for a second. You've done this for quite a while and done it quite well. First here in California, now in New York as a law professor. What has been your read of the way, and I don't want to phrase this to give you as much latitude as I can, how would you read the politicization of the Department of Justice in Trump 2.0?
So this is, I think, a real problem. We have seen, certainly in the first Trump administration, the DOJ sort of drifting toward less independence, more alignment with the White House. That is something that we had not seen previously. There had been, in previous administrations, a real effort to separate the White House and its legal dealings from the work that the Department of Justice did, because there needed to be separation, as we've seen in earlier administrations where, there have been DOJs who've investigated the president, whether it was Nixon or Clinton or whatnot. There needed to be a real separation. That changed a fair amount under the first Trump administration. I think the Biden administration really tried to do a lot of work to repair that sort of coming together, the cleaving of the White House and the Department of Justice. And, I think in doing so, they actually may have dropped the ball on some major things, like, sort of shepherding the decision to prosecute the rank and file January 6th protesters, as opposed to going for those who were higher up in the organization who may have led the effort on January 6th. But the decision making was largely because the president, Joe Biden, wanted to make clear that there wasn't the sort of deep-seated, inextricable links between the White House and the Justice Department. The whole progression of making the Department of Justice an arm of the White House, or as we say on our podcast, Strict Scrutiny, the personal law firm of the president, has really accelerated under Trump 2.0. We have seen the DOJ really prosecute the president's campaign of retribution against his perceived enemies. We've seen the firing of personnel who are not partisan personnel. These are longtime lawyers who have been working in the DOJ under different administrations. Their appointments were not ideological, but they have been rooted out as the administration has sought to install those who are viewed as loyal to the president and therefore the attorney general's agenda. And for those who have been long-term participants in the DOJ, people who have watched the DOJ, that perhaps is the hardest part of all. Like, these are really important experts who have done really important work at the DOJ under a number of different administrations, and they've been rooted out and they've been replaced by those who have a particular ideological bent and view the administration of justice in a very different way.
Yeah, I'm thinking for the moment about my friend Prince. He would always tease the audience in concert and say, "What should I play next? What should I play next?" And thousands of folks start yelling out song titles. He'd let them go for a while. He'd lean in and say, so many hits, so little time. I raise that because I want to ask what it is that you are, in fact, covering on your podcast these days, Strict Scrutiny, because there are so many issues and so little time, Melissa.
Well, we covered the Supreme Court in large part. And so, our major task is to try to make the court digestible for lay audiences. We think there's so much mystery shrouded around the court and what it does. And most Americans don't realize how the court's decisions really impact their lives in very, very consequential ways. And, we've seen some of that in sharp relief over the last couple of years. The court overruling Roe versus Wade obviously has had a real impact on various communities, including Black women. But even more recently, the things that the Supreme Court has done on its so-called shadow docket, this is the sort of interim docket where the court takes up decisions that have to be dealt with as a litigation is proceeding through the lower federal courts. And, in those shadow docket rulings, by and large, this court has facilitated this administration's efforts to dismantle administrative agencies like the Department of Education. They have blessed the president's efforts to sort of run roughshod over the rule of law. And those shadow docket decisions often go unnoticed because they don't usually produce long form opinions that the public can read, if the public even wants to read Supreme Court opinions. And so one of our tasks is to make sure that Americans are up to speed on what's happening on the shadow docket, what's happening on the court's merits docket, and how all of that impacts their lives just as much as what the president is doing and just as much as what Congress is doing.
One question about a Latina, and then I'll get to these white women, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mace, and Boebert. I mentioned earlier that Melissa had the honor of clerking for, and frankly, she was honored to have Melissa as her clerk, Supreme Court Justice Sonya Sotomayor. Two questions here. When you clerk for a Supreme Court justice, when you're no longer there years later, do you still stay in touch? I never asked that question to anybody. Do you, I guess it depends on the individual. But do you stay in touch with the justice? And say a quick word about what it was like clerking for Sonya Sotomayor, and then we'll push forward from there.
Well, I should first clarify that the honor was decidedly mine. I hope she was pleased with my work, but it was definitely my honor. And I actually worked with her when she was a judge on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. That's the intermediate federal appellate court that sits in New York City. She then, a few years later, I think 5 years later, went on to be elevated to the Supreme Court. But she's been an enormous mentor to me, enormously generous, has always been very supportive of me and my career, of my family, loving to my children. She's just been really fantastic. Not everyone, I think, has that relationship with their judge or justice. It really depends, I think. But I think for the most part, judges really take care to mentor the young people with whom they work, the young lawyers with whom they work. And she has been very clear about that. And more importantly, to my mind, really emphasized to me that kind of mentorship, that kind of sponsorship is a gift to be paid forward. And so, just as she mentored me, I too have worked really hard in my career to mentor other young people coming forward. And, I'm really pleased to say, like, one of my former students at Berkeley came to an event with Justice Sotomayor at Berkeley Law back in 2011 and was so inspired. She went on to clerk for 2 federal judges and a justice of the California Supreme Court, and now herself is a judge in the California Superior Court system.
How cool is that? Particularly given that one of your former students. That must make you feel good and smile when you share a story like that. I'm going to play some clips for you in a little while here. In a few minutes, we're going to play some clips. I got some stuff you have to hear. Jamie Raskin went in on Kristi Noem yesterday out of Maryland. Jamie Raskin went in on Kristi Noem yesterday. You got to hear this in a few moments. Tom Massey raises some provocative questions about this moment of constitutional crisis as it relates to the War Powers Act. We'll let Melissa Murray opine on that in a few moments. So before I get to those clips, though, of Massey and Raskin, so you mentioned Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert. I added Marjorie Taylor Greene to the mix. We all know, we've discussed it ad infinitum, ad nauseum on this program over the last year and a half or so, the way these white women essentially abandoned Kamala Harris. The data is incontrovertible in that regard. But now we are seeing at least a handful of white women pushing back on Donald Trump and the way he governs. Don't want to put too much on that, but how should we read that?
Well, I don't know that we should read it as a wholesale repudiation of their investment in the patriarchy, but I think they're beginning to recognize that the whole point of the patriarchy is that it's not great for women, any women, and it's not been great for them. A lot of their antipathy actually has been reserved, not necessarily for the president, although Marjorie Taylor Greene has been very vocal about her disenchantment with the president. But for the most part, those women have expressed their disillusionment with Mike Johnson and his leadership style in the House. So Elise Stefanik has talked about this being sidelined. Boebert and Mace have also been sidelined. And, they've been very clear that they don't like it. So I don't know if it's necessarily a repudiation of the movement per se. I think they understand the degree to which they may benefit from the movement. But I also think right now they're beginning to grapple with, even as they are the beneficiaries of patriarchy, they are also its victims. And, Black women have been trying to tell them for a long time. Patriarchy is not good for any woman.
Speaking of gavels at the Supreme Court, and for that matter, gavels inside the House, I've argued a number of times on this program that, to my mind at least, Mike Johnson, you referenced earlier, has surrendered his gavel to Donald Trump. And in some ways, John Roberts has done the same thing. In 45 seconds, can you comment on that right quick?
Oh, we have really missed having a Congress. Under Mike Johnson's leadership, I'd say under Kevin McCarthy's leadership, this Congress has really acquiesced to this president and has not guarded its prerogatives. We can talk about the War Powers Act and all of that in a little bit. The Chief Justice is a little different. I think the court is moving in lockstep with this administration, although there are moments, flashes of independence that makes the mainstream media laud the court as independent and standing up to the administration. Those are short-lived. And I think those flashes of independence only serve to burnish the court's legitimacy, not necessarily to stop the president. So, we have 2 branches that I think have basically let this administration have its way with them.
Kristi Noem testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee on, Tuesday. You got a little crunk there, but nothing like it. It went down just in the house. When we come forward, you hear Jamie Raskin get into it with Kristi Noem. You hear Thomas Massey get into it as well. More with Melissa Murray of NYU Law when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago is getting ready for a massive public memorial service for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson at the House of Hope. Here's Senior Pastor Charlie Dates on NBC Chicago.
His message was transcendent, that hope is universal and it is unfading and unending. So it's great that we get to celebrate him.
Former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden are expected to attend. The service starts tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who served under President George W. Bush during 9/11 and the Iraq War, says action in Iran was a long time coming. During an appearance on Fox News Wednesday, the black Republican said President Trump should take care of Iran for good, voicing her support for Operation Epic Fury. And Tyler Perry is partnering with Netflix for a new drama series called Where There's Smoke. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Is this the This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers won their third straight game. They beat the Indiana Pacers Wednesday night 130-107 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 29 points and 8 rebounds for Kawhi Leonard. Darius Garland had 12 points and 8 assists off the bench. It was Garland's first home game for the Clippers since the February 5th trade that brought him to L.A. in exchange for James Harden. Garland had been sidelined for a month with a foot injury. The Lakers are at Denver tonight. The Lakers also have a 3-game winning streak. The Big Ten Conference Women's Basketball Tournament tips off today in Indianapolis. UCLA, the number 2 team in the country, is the number 1 seed in the tournament. The Bruins' first game is Friday at noon local time. They will meet the winner of today's game at noon between USC and Washington. All games in the tournament will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Top 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
So my ladies, I'll show you know how to work that. Go.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Melissa Murray, NYU law professor, former clerk for Sonya Sotomayor, and best-selling author. In fact, she has a new book coming out in a few weeks, May the 5th to be exact. It's called The U.S. Constitution, a comprehensive annotated guide for the modern reader. No time like the present for somebody to remind us of what the Constitution actually says, what it does, and what it means. Give me the quick top line on the text, Melissa.
Well, the text was written by the founders, but they didn't really explain it as well as they could have. And so that's where I step in to try and make this accessible to lay audiences. It is something that every family should have. The Constitution was meant to be read by the people and meant to be heeded by our leaders. And we need the people to understand it in order to hold their leaders to account. With specific regard to the War Powers Act that you referenced earlier, I want to get Melissa to explain what is real and what is not real. There's so many misnomers about the power the president really does have. You've heard me, opine repeatedly on this program, and share with you how concerned I am about. I've never seen anything like this in my career, where the executive branch, any one branch of government, is pulling that much power under its control. As I said earlier, Congress under Mike Johnson is just surrendering the gavel. John Roberts, Melissa and I may not completely agree on this, but I think Roberts has done some of that as well at the Supreme Court level. But Donald Trump is just amassing more and more power for the executive branch. And you can trust and believe that when one president gains it, the next one ain't giving it back. So we see, this notion of checks and balances being bastardized, frankly, day in and day out. I digress on that for now. Let me play a clip from Thomas Massie. I think what he says is pretty self-explanatory, and then we'll let Melissa tell us what the real deal is. Miles, give me the clip of Thomas Massie.
This administration can't even give us a straight answer as to why we launched this preemptive war. The president says we had to strike first because an Iranian strike was imminent. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense conceded there was no evidence of an imminent Iranian strike. Some told us this war was about nuclear weapons, but 6 months ago, we were assured our last strike on Iran decimated their nuclear program. So which is it? I think the most candid answer came from the Secretary of State, who told the press that Israel forced our hand and dragged us into this war again. And that truth is the very reason why it is Congress that must decide war. If American lives are to be risked and American blood is to be shed, that decision must be debated and voted on by the representatives of the American people, and that debate is meant to be arduous, and that vote is meant to be hard. I have a theory. I think my colleagues don't want to go on record because we have a terrible track record of meddling in the Middle East. They don't want their name associated with this when it doesn't turn out well. But Congress cannot be bothered with its constitutional duty because for many in this chamber, it's easier to simply allow someone else's sons and daughters to be sent to combat without their vote. And to be clear, we aren't even here to declare war today. All we're voting on is a war powers resolution to reassert the Constitution, that Congress must decide questions of war. And if Congress wants war, then the Speaker should hold a vote to declare it.
It's Thomas Massie making it plain, keeping it simple, pretty clear to me. But this is the game they can't shoot straight and they can't get their story straight. I played a clip yesterday of Donald Trump suggesting that he forced Israel's hand. Remember that clip I played yesterday? Y'all listen every day, at least you should be. So Trump said yesterday, no, I forced their hand. I ain't doing BB's business. Marco Rubio says Israel forced our hand. Well, what's the truth? But Thomas Massie does a pretty good job as a preview, as a lead-up to the real expert here, Melissa Murray, who's going to tell us right now what the Constitution really does say and what the real deal is about this so-called War Powers Act. Melissa Murray, take it away.
So the framers, when they were drafting the Constitution, recognized that war was a really unusual situation that required both deliberation and exigence, right? So you needed to be able to really think in a considered way about whether you were going to war, but you also needed to move very quickly to address the prospect of the kinds of threats that would engender a war. So the Constitution tries to split the difference by splitting war powers. So it gives Congress in Article 1 the sole authority to declare war, and also gives it the authority to raise and fund the armed forces. But then it also complements this by giving the president the role of commander-in-chief in Article 2, Section 2, which allows the president to direct the military. So the president and Congress are sort of sharing the field here. And it's true that presidents often initiate military action, but the idea is that Congress actually has to play a role in approving that action by a formal declaration of war or some other signal of consent. And after the Vietnam War, which again was a war that was not formally declared by Congress and lasted a very long time and provoked a lot of political consternation in the United States, Congress passed what is known as the War Powers Resolution of 1973. And the purpose of that act was to check the president's authority to commit the U.S. armed forces to an armed conflict without securing Congress's consent. So the president under that act is required to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying troops into hostilities or into a war, as it were, and requires Congress to either approve it or to have the president remove those troops within 60 to 90 days unless Congress authorizes a longer engagement or actually declares war. Here, we've had no formal congressional declaration of war, as Representative Massie has suggested, nor have we had the administration go to Congress to notify them of the deployment of troops and to seek Congress's consent. And that's a real problem.
Yep. Let me ask you point blank a question before I do that, though. That was Massie, Representative Massie, speaking before that vote was taking place. You probably all know by now, headlines everywhere. The Senate did, in fact, thwart this bid to curb Trump's war powers on Iran. So not only have they, as Congress, surrendered all of their authority and power to the president, when they had a chance to check him in real time yesterday, they punted. They passed on that opportunity, never mind what Massie had to say. So I asked Melissa, given all that you've just said now, at this moment, is Donald Trump out of line, out of order?
Well, so this is a really important question. Post 9/11, the Congress passed what is known as the Authorization for the Use of Military Force, and it authorizes the president to use, quote unquote, all necessary and appropriate force against nations, organizations, or persons involved in the terrorist attacks on the United States during 9/11. It's the foundation of the war on terror, but it has also been used, and I think is being used in this instance, to authorize or to justify the attacks on Iran. And again, it raises a lot of questions, like, do we know that the actions that prompted this kind of action from the president were in response to 9/11, if they're part of an attack on terrorism? All of this is an open question. None of it necessarily supersedes the War Powers Resolution and the idea that before committing American troops to a long-term engagement in a hostile environment, the president has to seek the authorization of Congress, which he still has not done.
The most important question I'll ask in this hour, what's your dog's name? What kind of dog is it?
His name is Cole. He is a Biche Poo, which is a Bichon Frise poodle mix. He's very, very exercised about congressional acquiescence and the consent of Congress. He is also very, very exercised when Congress does not protect and jealously guard its prerogatives against executive encroachment. So he's been very feisty over the last couple of months.
She's good. She's good. That's why I'm honored to be in conversation right now with Melissa Murray. When we come forward, that Jamie Raskin clip going in on Christy Nome that you have to hear. You're listening to Melissa Murray, and I'm glad about it, on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. The midterm election campaign season is here now. The 2028 presidential election is right around the corner. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. It's all in for 2026 and 2028. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. We want you to know that we love you.
Less monologue,
more dialogue.
Tavis Smiley continues right now.
So, Miles, my boy, up and I were laughing. Whenever we talk to anybody in New York, we have a bet how long it's going to take before we hear sirens running through the streets of New York. We always hear sirens, never dog barks, but I am mad at Cole. I should also add that a majority of American voters now disapprove of how Donald Trump is handling Iran. There are a number of polls I could point to. I ain't got time to unpack it. But a lot of polls now out suggesting that Americans are not happy with the way that Donald Trump is handling Iran, even as he said yesterday that the U.S. is doing well on the war front. That was his clip. I ain't going to play it for you. I am going to play Jamie Raskin. It speaks for itself. Take a listen.
Were Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists?
Congressman, what happened in Minnesota in those two incidents was an absolute tragedy.
Were they domestic terrorists, as you said to the country?
My condolences to their families, because I know that their lives will never be the same after that happened.
Is that an apology for what you said?
We, in those incidents, offer as much information as we can from officers and agents on the ground in a chaotic scene that gets.
I'll repeat my question, reclaiming my time. Based on what you know today, Madam Secretary, based on what you know today, were Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists?
As you know, there's ongoing investigations that are being led by the FBI.
But you didn't wait for the investigation, did you? You didn't wait for the evidence. You proclaimed that they were domestic terrorists at the time. Why did you do that?
And you didn't wait to attack our law enforcement.
Why did you do that?
We're going into a dangerous situation.
Why did you call them domestic terrorists?
Is our ICE officers and our HSI officers that day risked their lives to protect that scene, so evidence could be reclaimed, so it could be used in the investigation. Because those violent rioters that were
So you're
there
proud of the fact that you called them domestic terrorists? Is that what you're telling America?
HSI officers put their lives on the line to protect that scene, so evidence so we could have.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. But you told a lie about them. You said that they were domestic terrorists. Do you regret that?
I offer my condolences to those families. And again,
based on what you know today, were Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists?
There's ongoing investigations, and so I.
So you still don't know. You think that's an open question?
I would think you would want there to still be investigations going into these situations.
Well, you stated the conclusion 2 hours after they were killed that they were domestic terrorists. I wanted to give you an opportunity to correct the record, not just for their family, but for everybody in America who believes in the truth and fairness and honesty.
In every situation, as facts come out, we relay.
You know, your acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, came before Congress. He said he had no knowledge whatsoever that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were domestic terrorists. None. This is your guy. He said that. He admitted that that was wrong. Why won't you admit it?
We will give Melissa Murray the last word when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage. Because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person. Complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
More honesty than you can handle.
More empowerment than you can imagine.
You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
You are indeed. And Melissa Murray, who was honored by the National Association of Women Lawyers not too long ago. She has a new book coming out on May the 5th, to be exact. We'll get her back on if she can squeeze us in when the book drops. It's called The U.S. Constitution, a comprehensive annotated guide for the modern reader. And as I said earlier, we need a book like that right about now so we can all get our minds straight and remind ourselves what the Constitution actually says and what it doesn't say. But I digress on that. For now, I've got 3 minutes left, and I will yield it to the gentlelady from NYU Law to respond in any way she will to these hearings that are getting much more intense, not just on Iran, but indeed trying to get answers to what happened in Minneapolis. You heard the Jamie Raskin clip. What do you think, Melissa Murray?
So I think these hearings are critically important for the American people to pay attention to. These are our elected leaders or individuals who have been designated by our elected leaders to deal with many of the pressing problems of our nation, whether it's immigration enforcement or justice questions, all of this. These people work for us, and they're coming into the People's House, Congress, and acting a straight fool. I mean, like Kristi Noem refusing to say that she had been mistaken or that it was a mistake to label these two individuals who died, who were killed in the streets, that she labeled them domestic terrorists and she doesn't regret it, is just a travesty. I mean, it truly is. And it really reveals how discordant this moment is. I mean, if this truly was a moment of domestic terrorism, our experience with 9/11 tells us that that was a perfect opportunity to allow state and local law enforcement to participate in the investigation of what happened in both of those incidents. And we know that this administration refused or dragged their feet on letting that happen, refused to let the Minnesota and Minneapolis law enforcement officials participate in those investigations. We know that's not how terrorism investigations work. We're supposed to amass all of the resources of the federal, state, and local agencies to address those issues. So the math isn't mathing on this, and we need to hold these leaders to account. It is one of the reasons why I decided to write this book, this annotated constitution. We need to know what our rights are. We need to know that this document was one that was intent on restraining government power, not on allowing it to be consolidated and exacerbated. This is about limited government. This is something conservatives used to talk about all the time, and now it seems they've forgotten what limited government looks like. The Constitution still remembers, and it's why I think every American has to read the Constitution, understand what it means, and I've tried to do that in a way that's digestible. As you say, the book is out on May 5th, but it is available for pre-order everywhere right now. And so you can get your copy and make sure that this is something that's in everyone's hands when it needs to be.
Got 60 seconds here for a quick follow-up. The other part about this domestic terrorism issue that troubles me, that Kristi Noem, to your point, won't back down on, is when you mislabel something, it makes it harder to deal with it in real time when it really does happen. We know what domestic terrorism looks like in this country, but when you call people who are not domestic terrorists, it takes our eye off the ball for what domestic terrorism really is, Melissa, when it does raise its ugly head.
No, I mean, that was the decision to term that domestic terrorism was purposeful. You're right. We know exactly what domestic terrorism has looked like. We saw it at Mother Emanuel Church. We have seen it in the federal building in Oklahoma City. We know what this looks like. It is not ordinary citizens exercising their constitutional rights to raise their voices and to call out the government when the government has gone too far. Those are basic rights that the framers of the Constitution put in place because they recognized that dissent was absolutely necessary to sustain a democracy. We don't have a democracy when the people cannot call their leaders to account, cannot say that, hey, you have gone too far. This isn't what you're supposed to do. If we are just supposed to roll over and be obedient, we're not in a democracy anymore. We're in something quite different.
We thank Melissa Murray, NYU law professor, for her brilliant insights in this hour. Melissa, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for your time. Give our best
Thanks
to
for
Cole.
having me.
All right, good to have you on. If you're watching or want to turn on us live, if you're listening live, I'm about to put on my I brought into the studio my 88 Jesse Jackson button. I'm about to put my button on. At the top of the hour, I'm going to offer my tribute to Jesse Jackson. I'll be followed by Cornel West with his tribute to Jesse Jackson, and then he'll be followed by Jonathan Jackson, the son of Reverend Jackson, and Jackie, with his tribute to his iconic father. There's some new video and audio out that I just came across yesterday of Jesse Jackson from 15 years ago. There's a Tavis connection to it. I'll tell you all about it and play it for you when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago is getting ready for a massive public memorial service for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson at the House of Hope. Here's Senior Pastor Charlie Dates on NBC Chicago.
His message was transcendent, that hope is universal and it is unfading and unending. So it's great that we get to celebrate him.
Former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden are expected to attend. The service starts tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who served under President George W. Bush during 9/11 and the Iraq War, says action in Iran was a long time coming. During an appearance on Fox News Wednesday, the black Republican said President Trump should take care of Iran for good, voicing her support for Operation Epic Fury. And Tyler Perry is partnering with Netflix for a new drama series called Where There's Smoke. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers won their third straight game. They beat the Indiana Pacers Wednesday night 130-107 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 29 points and 8 rebounds for Kawhi Leonard. Darius Garland had 12 points and 8 assists off the bench. It was Garland's first home game for the Clippers since the February 5th trade that brought him to LA in exchange for James Harden. Garland had been sidelined for a month with a foot injury. The Lakers are at Denver tonight. The Lakers also have a 3-game winning streak. The Big Ten Conference Women's Basketball Tournament tips off today in Indianapolis. UCLA, the number 2 team in the country, is the number 1 seed in the tournament. The Bruins' first game is Friday at noon local time. They will meet the winner of today's game at noon between USC and Washington. All games in the tournament will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. We want you to know that we love you.
When you've done all you can, and it seems like it's never enough. And what do you say when your friends turn away? You're all alone, all alone. Tell me, what do you give when you're giving your all? Seems like you can't make it through. Well, you just stand when there's nothing left to do. You just stand, watch the Lord see you through. Yes, after you've done all you can, you just
At the conclusion of today's show, I'm boarding a flight to Chicago, not simply to say goodbye to Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr., but to say thank you. Thank you for a life so fully, so fiercely, so faithfully lived. I have known many great men in my time, but Jesse Jackson was something altogether different. He didn't just walk into a room, he filled it. Yes, he had ego, we all do, but he always filled the room with purpose, with pride, with possibility. Every time I was in his presence, public or private, I always left feeling like I could do more, I could be more, I could demand more from myself and from this country. Jesse Jackson taught a generation of black Americans, taught all Americans, in fact, that your zip code is not your destiny, that the size of your dream must always exceed the size of your doubt. He didn't just say, keep hope alive. He lived it. He breathed it, and on some days, he bled for it. I think about a young black boy in Greenville, South Carolina, born into poverty, born indeed into a system designed to break his spirit, who dared to run for president of the United States not once, but twice, who won primaries, who moved delegates, who had political coattails, who stood before this nation and declared in that thunderous voice, our time has come. Jesse didn't just run for president. He expanded the very idea of who belongs in and who deserves the fruits of American democracy. That's all I was trying to do when Barack Obama was running for president. Make sure that the folk who had his back the most would not be taken for granted and end up worse off even as we celebrated our first black president. I didn't hate Obama. I just loved us. Some folk got it, some did not. And the hate and the death threats were pretty intense for a good while. But Reverend Jackson understood in real time, my effort at least, to lovingly and respectfully hold President Obama accountable to the best interest of black fellow citizens. One day, Reverend Jackson was here in Los Angeles, appearing on a podcast, promoting, among other things, his annual birthday fundraiser at the Beverly Hilton to support his work at PUSH. One of the hosts, Claudia Jordan, trying to be cute, asked Reverend Jackson dismissively and disparagingly, "Is Tavis Smiley coming?" Take a listen.
Is Tavis Smiley coming?
I hope so. I have such a love for him, such appreciation for him. I think that Tavis has meant a lot to all of us. His voice, the workshops he's conducted, his TV show, his radio show, and while there are those who challenge him because he's challenged the president, Tavis Smiley has dignity, and he has earned our respect as a people, and I respect him highly.
Lord have mercy. Now, here's the funny part about that clip. That was in 2011, but I had never heard that audio until 24 hours ago. I kid you not. It was emailed to me yesterday by the engineer who recorded the podcast 15 years ago. You cannot imagine how I felt when I played that audio sitting at my desk in my office yesterday. The tears just started flowing. Jesse Jackson had my back when I didn't even know it, when I was nowhere around. He was not going to let them clown me or crush me that day, not as long as he was in the room. And for that, I am forever indebted, and I am forever grateful, knowing nothing of it. And speaking of being crushed, rather than let the assassination of our greatest leader crush him, Jesse Jackson used Dr. King's untimely death as fuel. He went to Syria and brought Navy Lieutenant Robert O. Goodman Jr. home. He went to Kuwait. He went to Serbia. He went wherever human dignity was under threat because he believed, in fact, I believe he knew, that his presence mattered. Jesse Jackson was not a perfect servant. He was a public servant. He would tell you that himself. I can hear him now. Whenever he made a mistake in judgment, Tavis, charge it to my head, not to my heart. So while not a perfect man, he was a persistent man. He was a prophetic man, a man who, like Dr. King, believed that the arc of the moral universe is long but bends toward justice, and he spent his entire life doing the bending. To Miss Jackie and to the Jackson family, the world has lost a giant. But you have lost your husband, your father, your grandfather, your heartbeat. We stand with you in this grief. Reverend Jackson, you told us to never surrender, to never give up, to hold on, to hold out. So today and in the days to come, we honor you the only way you would accept, by picking up the baton, by refusing to let the dream die, by keeping the faith. And so we say, rest now, Reverend. You have more than earned it, and we will keep hope alive forever.
Agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
An official message from Medicare.
Couple more minutes, and we'll start this month's book club.
You know, I usually love a plot twist, but this year, I'm comparing my options during Medicare open enrollment.
You can't assume your current health or drug plan is the best one for you.
And you gotta make sure your drugs are covered. That's important.
So is saving money.
Review all your options at Medicare.gov. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If a Lenovo computer for your business is on your holiday list, don't shop around. Just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com. It's your last chance to get exclusive deals on the PCs you want for your business, like the ThinkPad X9 14 Aura Edition and Yoga 7i 2-in-1. So avoid all that shopping chaos and price comparing, and just go directly to the source, Lenovo.com, where PCs are up to 35% off. That's Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Dr. Cornel West was here in L.A. on Friday night for our tribute to Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. at the historic First AME Church. If you could not get in the room that night, hear now Dr. West in his own words.
Ah, dear brother Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. We love you. We love you. We'll never, ever forget you. Nobody like Brother Jesse. My God, it was just about 10 days ago. My beloved wife and I, Anahita, were there with he and the one and only Jackie. And she's so magnificent, Jackie, in her own way. Give it up for Jackie Jackson. There is no Jesse without Jackie. 67 years together. We're just holding his hand for 2 hours. His eyes moving, as Brother Tavis said. And we just reflecting on his pilgrimage, reflecting on his journey. And the very fact that my brother Tavis would be able to bring us together here in Los Angeles to reflect on his pilgrimage. Brother Tavis was speaking this morning at 7:30, Charles Drew. Yesterday we had a magnificent salute to our black comic artists, because you know we don't exist without the laughter of a Jesse Jackson or a Richard Pryor or a Moms Mabley or a Dick Gregory. And we haven't got to Monique yet. Brother Tavis, KBLA, speaking the truth. My God, my God. We love Jesse and we love Tavis. Give it up for my brother Tavis. You see, Jesse Jackson was a genius. He was a giant. He was a titan. Yes, he was an icon. But we come from a great tradition of a great black people who never separate personalities and individuals into some isolated space. Jesse Jackson was a mighty wave in a great ocean of a black peoples, some of whom didn't make it. That city of bones that sits at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean that the great August Wilson talks about in Gem of the Ocean. So the very fact that we're here and in our right minds itself is a kind of miracle before we even get to the genius of the Jesse Jacksons and so many others. No Jesse without Helen, his mama. No Jesse without Noah, his father. No Jesse without George, his stepfather. No Jesse without Sam Proctor, who was the president of North Carolina A&T, who allowed Jesse into college with no exams, no essays, just met him and said, I think God can use you. Come on, Negro. I don't know you well, but come to North Carolina A&T because you're going to University of Illinois to be the first black quarterback, and that was too much for our vanilla brothers and sisters at that time. And I tell you, one of the greatest moments in the history of American culture was when the great Garner Taylor gave the eulogy for Sam Proctor in Abyssinian Baptist Church. I'll never forget it. Jesse cried like a baby because he, like you know, that he was who he was because somebody loved him. Somebody cared for him. And he also knew that he came from a people who have been so chronically and systemically hated for 400 years, every day, every month, every year, and yet taught the world so much about love. What is it about these black people that they could be so hated, and yet you see a Jesse Jackson with smile and style and love flowing through him? He didn't get it by himself. Harriet Tubman was in it.
Frederick Douglass was in him. Ida B. Wells was in him. A. Philip Randolph was in him. Martin Luther King Jr. was his mentor. Ralph Abernathy was his partner. James Lawson taught him. All of us are part of a cloud of witnesses. So when we look at Jesse, we're looking at the best of ourselves. And of course, he's a cracked vessel like each and every one of us. But oh, he comes from a great black people. Just that I can look at the cracks that I have, and I can still muster the courage to love my crooked neighbor with my crooked self. People raise the question, how could Jesse have so much energy, gusto, commitment, conviction, vitality, vibrancy? Well, it has so much to do with that tradition on the gut bucket, Jim Crow side of Greenville, South Carolina, that started in Springfield Baptist Church. And yes, he got pushed out of that church, but he went to Long Branch Baptist Church. And it had something to do with my dear brother, your dear brother Jesse, falling in love with a Palestinian Jew named Jesus. Don't get it twisted. You can talk about Jesse Jackson all night long in terms of his politics. Absolutely, he was progressive. You can talk about him all night long in terms of his rhetorical and oratorical genius. But if you don't get to his relation to Jesus, you're going to miss much of who Jesse Jackson really was. That deep down in the midnight hour, he knew that he had to fall back on something, because he comes from a great black people who knew and understood what the great Henry Highland Garnett said in 1843 in Buffalo, and he stepped to the mic. Didn't have microphones in those days, to the lantern. Only had one leg, had lost his right leg to the black freedom struggle, so he had his crutch, probably with a gangster lean. And he said, never confuse the situation of black people in America with the situation of Israelites in the Hebrew scripture. For black people, Pharaoh is on both sides of the bloody Red Seas. What are we to do when everywhere we look, we see pharaohs? Sojourner Truth sitting next to Frederick Douglass. She whispered in his ear, Fred, is God dead? And God is dead on Holy Saturday after the crucifixion on Friday. And black folk been living that long Saturday for 400 years. Watching, waiting, fighting, laughing, organizing, mobilizing. And when you hear Jesse Jackson speak in San Francisco, invoking the biblical criteria of politics, what you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. Keep track of the dejected and the despised and the disinherited. That's no political discourse that comes from a people who have appropriated a Hebrew scripture and fell in love with a Jesus that told them, commanded them, focus on the least of these, whoever and whatever you are. I don't care if you're a sanitation worker. I don't care if you're a pharmacist. I don't care if you're a politician. I don't care if you're a professor. You, at your highest spiritual and moral level, must lift your voice, which is the anthem of black people. It doesn't say lift your echo. Got too many echoes around here reflecting silos. Don't take no courage to lift the echo. Can't be a blues woman or a jazz man if it's just gonna be an echo. You got to find your voice. That's what James Cleveland told Aretha. Find your voice, girl. Quit imitating Marianne. That's what Monk told Coltrane. Quit imitating Johnny Hodges of the Duke Ellington Band. Find your voice, Monk. Find your voice, Sarah, Ella, Billy, Luther. Find your voice. And I know I'm in Los Angeles, so I'm gonna say the Whispers and the Scotty Twins. They found their voice. Barry White did too. And your voice is like your fingerprint. Jesse Jackson found his voice based on rooting and immersing himself in the best of a tradition of a people who have been terrorized for 400 years, but teach the world about freedom for everybody. Traumatized for 400 years, but at our best choose to be wounded healers rather than wounded hurters, dealing with depths of sadness and sorrow we don't have a language for, but teaching the world so much about joy. That's where Jesse Jackson comes from. And it embraces everybody, but it begins on the chocolate side of town. And part of our challenge is that we're losing access to that great tradition. The black freedom struggle has always been the leaven in the American democratic loaf. America would have gone fascist long time ago if it wasn't for the black freedom struggle. They would have been at each other's throats without the Martin Kings and the Fannie Lou Hamers and the Frederick Douglasses, all the way up to the Jesse Jackson. But what happens when the black freedom struggle starts getting weak? Well, the loaf gets stale. And when the loaf gets stale, you get organized greed on steroids. You get weaponized hatred on steroids. You get routinized indifference on steroids. And the great Rabbi Heschel used to say what? Indifference to evil is more insidious than evil itself. And we're living now in a whole culture of an empire where the organized greed and the weaponized hatred and the institutionalized indifference and the routinized cruelty and love and empathy become a foe rather than a companion. And so the voice, the witness, the words, the laughter, the styles, and as Brother Tavis say, the looks too. Jesse Jackson's got to be one of the few politicians I know who could sing with the Dramatics and the Delphonics. Because he's a good-looking brother. Oh, yes. One human being in a rich family, rich tradition, falling in love with a Palestinian Jew named Jesus, and then unleashing it on the whole world, connected to a whole host of other voices, other figures, other movements around the world. He understood what Brother Martin meant when Martin said injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So yes, it's true that a Palestinian baby has the same value as an Israeli baby. It's true that an Iranian baby has the same value as an Ethiopian baby. A brown and a yellow and a black baby have exactly the same value. And if you really believe that, then when you stand in with our Americans being terrorized, that's not something that's abnormal and aberrational. That's something that sits at the center of who you are, and you rather be defeated at the moment and not allow evil to triumph, because sooner or later this too shall pass. So we say to the gangster Trump administration, You're enslaved by hatred. You're in bondage to greed. This too shall pass. And we black folk, we are on intimate terms with organized greed and weaponized hatred for 400 years. And we still standing. We're standing with dignity. We're standing with grace. We standing with style. And we going down fighting. Just like Duke Ellington said, it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And put love in that swing. Put justice in that swing. Jesse, we love you. We'll never, ever forget you.
Cornel West. Cornel West. Dr. Cornel West. Give him some love one more time. Let Dr. West hear it. Let him hear it one more again. When we come forward, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, the son of Jesse and Jackie, with his reflections on his iconic father. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago is getting ready for a massive public memorial service for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson at the House of Hope. Here's senior pastor Charlie Dates on NBC Chicago.
His message was transcendent, that hope is universal and it is unfading and unending. So it's great that we get to celebrate him.
Former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden are expected to attend. The service starts tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who served under President George W. Bush during 9/11 and the Iraq War, says action in Iran was a long time coming. During an appearance on Fox News Wednesday, the black Republican said President Trump should take care of Iran for good, voicing her support for Operation Epic Fury. And Tyler Perry is partnering with Netflix for a new drama series called Where There's Smoke. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers won their third straight game. They beat the Indiana Pacers Wednesday night 130-107 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 29 points and 8 rebounds for Kawhi Leonard. Darius Garland had 12 points and 8 assists off the bench. It was Garland's first home game for the Clippers since the February 5th trade that brought him to L.A. in exchange for James Harden. Garland had been sidelined for a month with a foot injury. The Lakers are at Denver tonight. The Lakers also have a 3-game winning streak. The Big Ten Conference Women's Basketball Tournament tips off today in Indianapolis. UCLA, the number 2 team in the country, is the number 1 seed in the tournament. The Bruins' first game is Friday at noon local time. They will meet the winner of today's game at noon between USC and Washington. All games in the tournament will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Now at Big O Tires, for a limited time, get a free tire when you buy 3. That's right, buy 3, get 1 free. Valid on select tires with installation purchase. And synthetic oil changes start at only $39.99. Find your nearest store at BigOTires.com.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is,
can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
So my ladies,
I'll show you how to work that.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park,
Los Angeles, California.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Ordinary people. God uses ordinary people. He uses people just like me and you who are willing to do as he commands. He uses people that will give their all. No matter how small your all may be to you, little becomes much when you place it in the Master's hand.
The now late, great Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. was just an ordinary person, but did some pretty amazing and extraordinary things in his lifetime. We've been out on this program in the days past to be joined by members of his family, all of whom I will see tomorrow when I'm in Chicago for the next couple of days for the Celebration of Life services. Can't wait to give a big hug to Miss Jackie and the entire family. But in the previous days on this program, we've been joined by Jesse Jackson Jr., of course, my colleague here on our home station, KBLA Talk 1580 in L.A. Santita, the first child, was on not too long ago. And I am honored now to be joined by Congressman Jonathan Jackson to get some of his reflections on his iconic father. Congressman, how are you today, sir?
Hey, Brother Tavis. Good to hear your voice.
It's good to hear your voice, man.
Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
I look forward to seeing you and giving you a big hug, man. I know these are trying times, and this has gone on for a couple of weeks. Your father was so beloved. You've traveled his body around the country. That body, of course, is back in Chicago for these 2 days of services. Let me just start by asking, and I know that these are, again, difficult days, but how are you and the family holding up after this journey you've been through?
Oh, great. So you can cut off that sad music. I love Dad. You love him. He has so much joy, so much love in life. Love Reverend James Cleveland. Very touching words. You're not going to make me cry today.
Mm.
And I know that he labored hard and long. So I've got a lot of thoughts, reflections. I'm just so grateful for the overwhelming amount of outpouring of love, reflection, and glad to see that some of his true work is now being discussed. I wish more of it had been discussed in his lifetime and certainly his latter years. But it's a joyous time. This is a stage of life that we can expect. He lived 84 great years. I'm so grateful. I've had my father for 60 years and my mother had him for 64 years. And so my father told me one time, when I think of God, I thank God. So I'm at that moment. I just thank God for the time we had. A friend of mine texted me just before the program and says, he lives in Los Angeles. He says he never knew his father. And when he was 20 years of age, he met my father and he's filled a void for him. I've heard a lot of stories like that on people that were inspired, touched by my father. So I count it all joy, Tavis.
Yeah. Nobody turned a phrase quite like your father, and I love that line. When I think of God, I thank God. When I think of God, I thank God. That's Jesse Jackson to the core. I'm glad you went there. I want to follow you because I have been trying to find the right word, Jonathan. I've been chagrined is one word, but I've seen so many people, and I ain't got to call no names, but I've seen a lot of people who are giving Jesse the kind of respect in death that he deserved in life. And so I'm glad to see that it's finally coming. And yet I don't know how to process that because it saddens me. I hear your point that you don't want to be sad. It's a joyful remembrance of your father. I get that. But I am troubled by the fact that in so many ways he did not get the honor, the accolade he deserved in his lifetime, even though some of that's coming now. Tell me more about how you're processing that in real time.
He never did any of his work for the applause. He oftentimes reminded me that thanks is a price that if you're doing it for the thanks or the praise, you'll be very disappointed. And so Jesus healed many and only one came back.
That's right.
To say thank you. So
that's right.
He was very much connected to that. So and he says, and thank goodness you don't do the work for the thanks, or you'll be very disappointed. So yeah, I don't have any comments on that. I just people have to live with themselves, and I'm not into that.
I get it. Tell me more about how, for all of you, certainly your brother, Jesse Jackson Jr. was a member of Congress for almost 20 years, running again, and will likely be in Congress again. And that tickles me because the Jackson family will likely have two sons, two brothers, who are serving in Congress at the same time. That makes me smile, as you can hear through this radio conversation. But talk to me more about the way in which, for you and Jesse and your other members of your family, this public service, this notion rather, public service, has been so important to all of y'all. And obviously, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think it's more a he did his work for 65 years. He first got arrested and at the age of 19, and I was thinking some thoughts on that, Tavis. It's I grew up not necessarily being very proud of my father's work up until maybe a teenager. It was some part was exciting, but you see Dad going to jail, you see Dad having demonstrations, you see Dad having to boycott, and you hear some of the mean things that people have to say. And you're a child, you don't know what's going on. And then all the way up until the time I got to college, I think I was 18 at the time, and my father says, "Hey, we're going to jail." I'm like, I don't want that on my resume. And, shit,
Yeah.
I just got my GPA up. I want to get into a program. I'm studying business. I said, Dad, that's not going to look good on my resume. He says, don't get confused with what you do for your life versus what you do for a living. I'm like, oh, man, Dad wants to do it. We're on our way to jail. So we went to jail here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And it's for a free South Africa and for a free Nelson Mandela. And I was like many other people, like, Mandela, who, where, what's going on? Seems right thing. The United States government's calling him a terrorist, and majority blacks are being held down by the minority whites. I'm like trying to make sense of it. It just doesn't make any sort of sense. So we went to jail here in D.C. We were on the cover of like the Washington Post, New York Times.
Yeah.
And I share that story because that was one of my first most embarrassing moments. And as I look back on that picture now, it's one of my proudest moments.
Oh, yeah.
And to think that President Ramaphosa will be coming to Chicago, and that my father was a part of that chain, and so many other people participated on a free South Africa. I find to be just awesome.
You heard
it was right.
No, you hear the congressman say that all kinds of world leaders, including the president of South Africa, will be in Chicago tomorrow. And you also heard him say he's in Washington right now. So I've got a few more minutes with him, about 15 to be exact. He's got to catch a plane to get to Chicago for these services. When we come forward, I want to ask him the same question I asked Jesse Jr., his brother, and Santita, his sister. His reflections on Jesse as a father. We know him as a public leader, as a humanitarian, as an advocate. But I want to hear Jonathan in his own words about Jesse as his father. And I'm laughing because I hadn't really processed it this way. But when Jesse Jackson's your dad, you ain't never getting the last word. Anything you say, Jesse got a one-liner for you. He going to come back with some wisdom, but you ain't getting the last word. If Jesse Jackson is your father, we'll let Jonathan Jackson unpack that for us when we come forward with the congressman on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is dedicated to inspiring youth and resilience through storytelling, arts, filmmaking, and enrichment programs for youth and families in under-resourced communities and system-impacted individuals. The Michael's Daughter Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit providing free and low-cost arts programs to youth and families from under-resourced communities, both system-impacted youth and those affected by the incarceration of a loved one. 1 in 43 children in America have a parent incarcerated. 70% of those children are expected to end up in prison. Through filmmaking, animation, theater, and writing, they help young people express themselves, build confidence, and imagine new possibilities. Beyond the arts, they offer financial literacy workshops, emergency support, and scholarships. Because thriving takes more than talent, it takes access. To learn more about the impact of Michael Daughters Foundation and how you can be a part of the movement, please visit their website, michaelsdaughterfoundation.com. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
I'm still marinating on what Congressman Jonathan Jackson shared a moment ago about his dad. When his dad said many times, "When I think of God, I thank God. When I think of God, I thank God." It's funny to me, as I said a moment ago, when Jesse Jackson Sr. is your daddy, you ain't getting the last word. And whatever your situation is, he got something to say to you. I mean, I was laughing, Jonathan. Jesse Jackson Sr. is a book of Proverbs. He is a book of Proverbs. Talk to me about Jesse Jackson Sr. as your father, not the public figure that we all know, but as your patriarch.
Well, Dr. Samuel DeWitt Proctor described my father to me one time. I'm trying to, as I got older and started to appreciate his work, and when I started realizing all these ministers and other people out in the in front of that they were the greats, you know, and from Dr. Howard Thurman to Dr. Samuel DeWitt Proctor, it just played out like a living encyclopedia of who's who in Black and progressive America. They came through our house and we went to theirs. And but Dr. Proctor described my father as courage wrapped around compassion. And that stuck in my head. And so I would say that my father's a very compassionate person. The person that I would see preaching and raising his voice is never the person that you see off stage. It's almost like there was a transformation just in the church tradition, but he was soft-spoken off stage, very passionate on stage, passionate, of course, about his work, and the fun, great sense of humor. All the great, good ministers have a good sense of humor just because you run into so many human personalities.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people are funny. And so we laugh in between other thoughts. And what's really cool is when you have your father that's also a minister, is pretty awesome because you get to go through the eternal questions of life. So I describe it as on that day, I lost my my father, I lost my friend, I lost my minister, I lost my civil rights icon hero. So I lost like several relationships. So I go in between calling him Reverend Jackson to Dad to hearing people call him Jesse. It's just a host of relationships all in one. And he's like, my grandmother was very smart like that, very sagacious and very good on her feet. I remember one time I came in the house and I was crying and Dad looked at me, he says, what are you crying for? And I told him, he says, listen, tears and sweat are both salty. One will may get you sympathy and the other will get you results. Keep working. And I just fell out laughing. I was like, where did you come up with that?
Oh man, that's what I mean. Whatever your situation is, your daddy got something for you, man. He got something for you.
He fired that back at me. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, that's good. I'm like, that's really good, Dad.
Yeah. No, I didn't have the time with him that you did, but every time I was in his presence, I got the same thing. I just came to just respect his brilliance, say nothing of his eloquence, and that's why we are on our way to Chicago in a few hours to celebrate the life and legacy, the work and witness of Jesse Jackson Sr. At the House of Hope. What an appropriate place, the House of Hope. That's his line, keep hope alive. And we are funeralizing him inside the House of Hope on the south side of Chicago. There is breaking news. Let me give it to you right quick. We discussed this earlier in today's program. Wait for it. Donald Trump has just announced that Kristi Noem is stepping down as Homeland Security Secretary. Donald Trump has just announced that Kristi Noem is stepping down as Homeland Security Secretary. Earlier in today's program, we played for you some back and forth with a number of members of Congress. She and Jamie Raskin got into it yesterday. And she's refused to apologize for calling Mr. Preddy and Ms. Good domestic terrorists in Minneapolis. And now Donald Trump says that his Homeland Security Secretary, first casualty in this cabinet, Kristi Noem, is gone or will be gone, according to the president. Back to our black president, Jesse Jackson Sr., with his son, Jonathan Jackson, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Tired of being locked out of job opportunities and shut down by systemic racism? KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in fighting for the rights of black workers, and we don't black down. The Los Angeles Black Workers Center is a dynamic alliance of workers, organized labor, community-based organizations, clergy, students, and scholars working collectively to improve the position of the black working class. The LA Black Workers Center takes a comprehensive approach to addressing the black jobs crisis. Their programs promote access to quality jobs, racial equity in hiring and retention, discrimination-free job sites, schools, and they prepare black workers for employment in high-wage career track jobs. The LA Black Worker Center supports workers who need help protecting their rights on the job. They give workers access to quality jobs and remove systemic barriers to employment. And they are advocating for a fair deal for black workers in the new Los Angeles City Charter. To sign up for free career readiness training, get involved in organizing, or learn about union apprenticeship programs and trade registries, please visit lablackworkercenter.org. That's lablackworkercenter.org. Together, we can beat the black jobs crisis and build a more equitable Los Angeles. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
What if your rooftop could earn you money every year? With LADWP's Solar Rooftops program, you can get solar panels installed and maintained on your home at no cost and earn up to $900 a year. That's up to $18,000 over 20 years. There are no upfront costs, no credit checks, and no annual fees. Plus, you'll help power Los Angeles with clean local solar energy and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Make your rooftop work for you. Apply today at ladwp.com/solarrooftops.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
I've got 3 quick minutes here with Representative Jonathan Jackson, son of Jesse and Jackie. We are honoring his father, Reverend Jesse O. Jackson Sr., tomorrow in Chicago. Congressman, it's timely for me to have a sitting member of Congress when news breaks about Kristi Noem stepping down. A quick comment about that before I close with your father.
Oh, she should have been gone, and I've asked for Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to resign as well. And I agree with Donald Trump's Chief of Staff, Mrs. Wild, when she says he has a bunch of junkyard dogs. Those are her words, not mine. Mm-hmm. And think of the last administration when Trump was leaving out. He started off with Rex Tillerson, the head of Mobile Exxon, as his in his cabinet. Mm-hmm. And he left out with his senior business advisor being Mr. Pillow.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And now he started off with a whole world of Mr. Pillows.
I repeat again, the apple don't fall far from the tree. They got it honest. They got it earnest from their father. What happens to Push now in the aftermath of your father's passing?
Yes, my brother Yusef is taking on that leadership, serving as its president. And so we'll continue to work and support. But the work of the Rainbow continues. It changed the dynamics of the Democratic Party. It's coalition politics. That's what we need more than ever. By 2050, in just less than 24 years from now, there will be no ethnic group that will be the majority. And so now it's going to be a race to build coalitions of people that have common interests, common ground that we have to advocate for. There are more people being left out than brought in to the economy. So that was my father's overarching goal in creating a rainbow coalition. And we still need it. And we need it now more than ever. Yeah. This president is very divisive. He's trying to pit people against each other. First it's the Mexicans, then it's the Haitians, and then it's the Arabs, and then it's the women, then it's the Antifa, then it's the activists. Like, he's just trying to split everybody apart. And the farmers, you have nothing in common with those that are receiving SNAP benefits. So he tries to divide people. We need to let people see we have more in common than we have in conflict.
You got to catch a plane from D.C. to Chicago. I've got to catch a plane from L.A. to Chicago. We will meet there, Lord willing, tomorrow. And for the next 2 days, we will celebrate your brilliant, your eloquent You're a powerful, you're a transcendent father, the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. Congressman, I'm deeply grateful for you in a moment like this. Give me 30 minutes of your time. I will never forget it. I thank you for it. And Lord willing, I'll give you a hug tomorrow in Chicago.
Hug.
You got it.
Tavis.
There you go. Love you, man. Take care. Take care. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago is getting ready for a massive public memorial service for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson at the House of Hope. Here's Senior Pastor Charlie Dates on NBC Chicago.
His message was transcendent, that hope is universal and it is unfading and unending. So it's great that we get to celebrate him.
Former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden are expected to attend. The service starts tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who served under President George W. Bush during 9/11 and the Iraq War, says action in Iran was a long time coming. During an appearance on Fox News Wednesday, the black Republican said President Trump should take care of Iran for good, voicing her support for Operation Epic Fury. And Tyler Perry is partnering with Netflix for a new drama series called Where There's Smoke. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers won their third straight game. They beat the Indiana Pacers Wednesday night 130-107 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 29 points and 8 rebounds for Kawhi Leonard. Darius Garland had 12 points and 8 assists off the bench. It was Garland's first home game for the Clippers since the February 5th trade that brought him to L.A. in exchange for James Harden. Garland had been sidelined for a month with a foot injury. The Lakers are at Denver tonight. The Lakers also have a 3-game winning streak. The Big Ten Conference Women's Basketball Tournament tips off today in Indianapolis. UCLA, the number 2 team in the country, is the number 1 seed in the tournament. The Bruins' first game is Friday at noon local time. They will meet the winner of today's game at noon between USC and Washington. All games in the tournament will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I believe that we will go from guttermost to uttermost. I believe that we will go from slave ship to championship. I believe that we will go from outhouse to state house to courthouse to White House. I believe.
He served alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He ran for president. He kept hope alive for millions of fellow citizens. This Friday, March 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 will carry the homegoing services of the Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. live from Chicago, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific. Join us as we say farewell to a giant, a preacher, a warrior, a man who never stopped fighting for justice. The homegoing service of Reverend Jesse Jackson. This Friday, live starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. You hold on and hold out. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Trashman didn't get my trash today. Oh, why? Because they want more pay. Buses on strike wanna raise and fare so they can help pollute the air. But that's what makes the world go round. The ups and downs of carousel, changing people's hair
like the world go round. Some songs sound as good now as they did way back then, and this is one of them. Love, love, love this track. What a great 2 hours it's been, talking about a little bit of everything, but certainly trying to get our minds right for what the next 2 days are going to bring in Chicago as we funeralize the late, great Reverend Jesse Louis Jackson Sr. World leaders are on the way to Chicago, including the President of South Africa and other nations, to speak tomorrow. 3 former presidents speaking tomorrow: Obama, Biden, Clinton, and so many others will be gathered at the House of Hope. Jesse Jackson always said, keep hope alive, and the service is being held inside the House of Hope on South Side of Chicago. And as soon as I wrap today's program, I am headed to Chicago myself to be there to add my voice to those who will celebrate the life and legacy, the work and witness of Jesse L. Jackson Sr. I'm pleased to welcome in studio for this final hour today a renowned author, spiritual leader herself, former presidential candidate herself. She and Jesse had that. Actually got 3 things in common. Jesse was an author. He was a spiritual leader. He's a former presidential candidate. So is Marianne Williamson, and I'm delighted to have her back in studio. When she walked in, I gave her just a quick roadmap of what we've been talking about for the first couple hours today on our program, and she said to me, you know what the problem with Jesse Jackson and others is that when these people live long lives and they transition, so many of us left behind don't have what Marianne referred to as historical memory. We just don't have historical memory. So I'm going to pass the baton to you, Marianne, to start this conversation on that note. Take it away.
Well, I think that once we reach a certain age in life, we can think of ourselves as the keepers of the story. And those of us who do remember the heyday of Dr. King, the role of people such as Jesse Jackson, they were moments of light in the midst of great darkness. And I think so many young people today really don't have a historical memory of a time when justice prevailed in any kind of fundamental way. They have been living at the effect of all manner of injustices, particularly economic injustice. So I think that when we take a story like Jesse Jackson and do talk about him, as you're talking about him today, and reminding and teaching younger people particularly, this person existed, this person stood for this, that, these were the successes, this was the mark that he made, and it's our job when somebody dies to know that the ideas only die if we let them die. So we're saying farewell to the body, we're saying farewell to the physical incarnation and manifestation of these ideas, but I think in a way the remembrance actually regenerates and restores some of the power that he emanated.
We've played a lot of audio of Jesse Jackson over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking now, Marianne, of some audio we played the other day from his '84 Democratic Convention speech. And I played it, and I stopped it, and I played it again, and I told the audience, listen to what Jesse was saying, the issues he was raising then in '84. And listen today to Cornel West, who was on the program earlier today. Listen to Marianne Williamson and these progressive positions they're taking now. I celebrate all of that. But it just leads me to ask how you found your way as a candidate to being so clear-minded and so eloquent in professing the progressive principles that you advanced in your campaign.
Well, interesting. It's much like what you say. I'm of the generation, many people say it harkens back to Bernie. No, it actually harkens back much. Listen, it harkens back to FDR. But I am of a generation who remembers people such as Jesse Jackson, and always felt and was taught as a child that it's our responsibility to carry forward as vigilantly and as proactively as we can everything that stands for liberty, justice, democracy, human rights, and so forth. And I saw, as certainly you did too, the complacency that set in, particularly during the 1980s, it seems to me. And the struggle that was inherent in that decade between those who felt that it was time to close our eyes, to assume that certain successes had been achieved and we didn't have to keep up the sort of eternal revolutionary spirit, versus those like Jesse Jackson. And always what inspired me. It's a river. It's never one individual versus another individual. It's a choir that goes throughout American history, and sometimes people take a solo part, and he certainly took a beautiful solo part.
There is breaking news about Kristi Noem. We'll let Marianne Williamson respond to that in just a second, I promise. In case you just tuned in and have not heard, Donald Trump has just announced that Kristi Noem is stepping down as Homeland Security Secretary. That was me and Marianne and Tavis applauding that decision. A little too late, but at least she's gone. We played some audio today of Jamie Raskin going in on her yesterday in that congressional hearing, along with Thomas Massie and others. And just that fast, Kristi Noem is now being pushed out, the first casualty in the Trump 2.0 cabinet. But Kristi Noem is about to leave Homeland Security, and not a moment too soon. We'll let Marianne respond to that when we come forward. But I also want to get Marianne to respond to this. Jesse Jackson in 84 and 88, of course, pushed really hard to advance. I was going to say reform. Reform is part of it, but to advance, to reform, to make better the Democratic Party. And I know Marianne's got some thoughts about that. It has been said by me 1,000 times. I saw Jim Clyburn saying it at the service for Jesse Jackson in his home native state of South Carolina, born in Greenville. James Clyburn spoke at the service in South Carolina the other day, and he made it clear, as big a supporter as he was of Barack Obama is not president if Jesse Jackson doesn't run first and in 88 changes the rules from winner take all to proportional voting. If proportional voting is not the way that the Democratic Party moves today and in 2008, Barack doesn't beat Hillary to get the nomination. So there is no Barack Obama. If there is no Jesse Jackson, specifically as it relates to that issue of proportional voting inside Democratic primaries. But the point here is simply this, that Jesse pushed this party to do better. How we could use his voice right about now. The Democratic Party's got to do better, and we'll ask Marianne what she thinks about that part. We'll talk about Kristi Noem, and more importantly, or as importantly, we'll get to her year-long journey into the mind of the miraculous. I am delighted to have Marianne Williamson in studio right now. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
This is the story of the one.
As a maintenance tech at a university, he knows ordering from multiple suppliers takes time away from keeping their arena up and running. That's why he counts on Grainger to get everything he needs, from lighting and HVAC parts to plumbing supplies, all in one place. And with fast, dependable delivery, he's stocked and ready for the next tip-off. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Marianne Williamson, renowned author, spiritual leader, former presidential candidate. Same things, as I said a moment ago, that Jesse Jackson had on his resume, who will celebrate tomorrow and Saturday in Chicago. But I'm delighted to celebrate Marianne Williamson, who joins me now in studio. Always pleased to have her pop in and see me, check on me, and I check on her. We see how each other's doing. She asked me how I was doing a moment ago, and I said, we sang a song in my Pentecostal church that's titled I Won't Complain. And I was sharing the lyrics with Marianne. I've had some good days. I've had some bad days. I've had some hills to climb. You know the lyric. But when I look around and I think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days, so I won't complain. So I tell Marianne, I find myself saying all the time that if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I say it all the time. Man. She asked how I was doing. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. That comes from that song for me, that when I look around and think things over, Jesse Jackson would say the same thing if he were here right now. All of my good days outweighed my bad days. I won't complain. His son, Jonathan Jackson, was on this program just last hour. And quoting his father, Jonathan said his dad would always say, when I think of God, I thank God. When I think of God, I thank God. So, again, delighted to have Marianne Williamson in studio here. Let me start with this. We'll get to Christy Nome here in just a second. In the news about her being pushed out, Donald Trump announced that she's stepping down. That's a good thing. But Jesse worked really hard, as you and I were discussing earlier, in 84 and 88 and beyond, to push the Democratic Party to do better. And had he not, first of all, he gets Ron Brown elected as the first black chairman of the Democratic Party. Ron Brown has that distinct honor, long before Jamie Harrison. And he changes the voting from winner-take-all to proportional voting, and that's how Barack ends up beating Hillary in that contest. But there's so many other ways that Jesse pushed the party to do better, and right now there's so many ways the party needs to be, ought to be, can be better. That's my setup. It's all yours, Marianne.
Well, as you said earlier, there would have been no Barack Obama had there not first been a Jesse Jackson. And what was important was that the Democratic Party was, and needs to be again, deeply committed to democracy within its own ranks. Mm-hmm. So no one would have thought of suppressing Jesse Jackson's voice or suppressing his candidacy. He may or may not win, but he was a candidate, and that's really how democracy should work. Over the last few years, and I think that under Ken Martin, I certainly hope that this will change. He's acknowledged the problem. He's apologized for it in terms of my own involvement. There has been an overriding sentiment among many people in the elite sort of top echelons of the Democratic Party that they would basically decide who the candidate should be. Everybody just needs to fall in line, and all these other voices, instead of being considered what you just said, voices that help push, voices that bring others in, voices that add to the conversation, instead of being seen as a kind of stimulant and fertilizer for the richness in the soil of the Democratic Party, had been seen as clutter and riffraff that would distract us, which really means, of course, that they felt entitled to suppress the democratic process. So I think in celebrating Jesse Jackson, I think you're very right. We need to celebrate the role he played. He didn't win. He didn't become the candidate, but his candidacy mattered. And hearing those points that he made mattered. And as you said, they paved the way for Barack Obama. And I think that the Democratic Party over the last few seasons from 2016, 20, and 24 made a terrible mistake with the DNC thinking it had the right to push the scales down for its chosen candidate. Terrible failure resulted, and I think that all of us being on the same page, that variety is good. Different voices is good. You can't have a big tent if you're not allowing people in the tent. If you have a candidate who don't even call people, then so it's good that conversation conversation is on the table and we realize that course correction must be made.
Speaking of course correction, will these midterms be a course correction? Will it be a sort of a rebound for the Democratic Party?
Well, we have a lot of challenges in front of us. First and foremost, that the Trump administration and the forces that support it have made very clear that they are already actually actively doing things to rig the vote and to suppress the vote. I think what we need is the equivalent to the Freedom Drive, the Summers in Mississippi in 1963. We need to have the mentality of the voter registration drives in the American South that led up to the Voting Rights Act. Not only has that act been gutted, but at this point, Trump wouldn't care what the law was anyway.
And about to be gutted more when this decision in Louisiana comes down, but I digress. Go ahead.
So that's what I think is the next big job, and I think we need to start now. I think in normal times, you would say to yourself around August or September, oh, I got to make sure I'm registered. But these days, it will be much more than that. We need to, part of the problem of the Democratic Party, but to me, it's not just about the Democratic Party. It's freedom lovers. It's democracy lovers. And many of those people wouldn't call themselves Democrats. It's to understand it's time to get out of reaction mode. We're always in reaction. That's been a problem of the Democratic Party for a while now. They do something hideous, we act shocked, and it takes us a while to get our game together to do something about it. At what point do we stop being shocked? At what point do we simply know what they're doing, see what they're doing, recognize what they're doing, not just talk about what they're doing, not just stir the soup and act outrage, but actually get busy. And that's what I think we need to do now with voter registration drives, the likes of which we've never seen.
What pages in their playbook should we steal?
They're spun. You know, you and I were talking earlier. They say what they mean and they act on it. And if you don't like it, they just say it again. If you don't like it, we have a focus group and try to figure out why you don't like it and why we can water down the message so that maybe you'll be okay with it. And if nothing else works, we'll leave town.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I asked that question because I believe that sincerely. I think it ruffles people's feathers when I say stuff like that sometimes. But there are pages in their playbook that we would do well to emulate. We got to acknowledge that.
And we have to be very careful here to recognize the nuances as well. One of the things I've noticed about the Republican Party, when they gain power, when they win an election, they consider it, and they should, they're right, the mandate. And they grab that power. Now, you and I would agree, any Democrat would agree, they also abuse it and overreach, definitely. And that should not in any way be tolerated or approved of. But we should recognize that too often what Democrats have done is we get power and we're kind of wringing our hands, even though we just won the election. Even when we gave you the House, we gave you the Senate, we gave you the Senate, House, the trifecta, you have the whole thing, and you're still saying, well, I don't know. We didn't get a mandate. Maybe if we win a second term, that's got to stop. We have to have the courage of our own convictions, and I think the word and courage does need to go with convictions right now, because in order for us to save this democracy, which is obviously almost mortally wounded at this point, we must have courage.
Well, Trump has a trifecta, to be sure. You got the White House, you got the House, got the Senate. They're rolling.
Biden had it for the first 2 years. Obama had it for the first
couple of years.
The things we could have, should have done.
That's right. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, oughta, didn't. But I digress. But he's got a trifecta now, and if he had the Supreme Court, it's more than a trifecta, except on tariffs. But I digress on that. We gonna say something good?
Well, yeah. You said earlier that Jesse Jackson pushed the Democratic Party to be better. I think that's an important thing. Also, he was recognized as someone pushing the Democratic Party to be better. Something that has fallen into the culture of the Democratic Party these days is that if you criticize, you're considered a negativizer and almost like an enemy. I remember being treated like an enemy. She's not a real Democrat. No. It's a good thing to push a system to be better, to push a system to own its mistakes so that it can be better.
Speaking of better, I'll go one better than that. You recall some months ago, James Carville invited progressives to just leave the party.
Yeah.
He just said, maybe the Democratic Party ain't the place for y'all. I mean, I said, come on, James, are you serious? So you want to invite progressives to go to someplace else? So I take your point.
Anyway. And you nailed it. You got it. That's exactly what I mean.
Let me go to Kristi Noem. Again, in case you've not heard as yet, Donald Trump announced in the last half hour, 40 minutes or so, maybe, that Kristi Noem, after her testimony in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, the House Judiciary Committee yesterday, 2 consecutive days she was given plenty of opportunity to apologize for calling Mr. Preddy and Ms. Good in Minneapolis domestic terrorists. 2 days in a row in front of two powerful committees. She had multiple opportunities to apologize. She doubled down. She tripled down. She quadrupled down. She refused, Marianne Williamson, to apologize to either of those families for calling them domestic terrorists. We talked about it today in our very first hour on this program, and now she's toast. What say you?
I think we need to be very careful. The fact that they're removing Kristi Noem it means something and doesn't necessarily mean much. There's a bill on the floor in Florida, in the state of Florida right now, which would basically declare that any organization that criticizes the president, any organization, any entity that criticizes the president, his agenda, capitalism, whatever they think that they stand for, is a domestic terrorist. So this was not just about Kristi Noem refusing to apologize for that. It was about Kristi Noem being true to an agenda, which is the vilification, which could ultimately be the dehumanization, which could ultimately mean a reason to put people in detainment centers. And no, this is not hyperbole, right? It's much bigger than just her. So this idea of calling anyone who criticizes the government or peacefully protests the government or takes any nonviolent action in resistance to the government a domestic terrorist. The fact that Kristi Noem is gone doesn't mean that that problem itself is gone. So we need to keep our eyes open to see how former Senator Mullen, I think he's a former senator from Oklahoma, right, will act in that capacity. And it's really not about Kristi Noem. It's about what those ICE agents are doing. Just removing her doesn't in and of itself change the culture of ICE, of the DHS in general. Sure. And so we have to keep our eyes wide open. Let's celebrate for a few hours and then refuse to go back to sleep.
Let me jump from the political realm to the spiritual realm for a second, and who better do this with than Marianne Williamson. You'll take my point here in just a second. We see this too often these days, and that is people in public spaces, and for that matter in private spaces, say and do things for which they refuse to apologize. They won't say, I'm sorry. They won't say, I made a mistake. I quoted Jesse Jackson earlier in this program today. I heard him say it more than once. Whenever he would make a mistake, and he's human, not divine, not human and divine, just human. So we all make mistakes. But I heard Jesse on more than one occasion say to me and say to others, Tavis, I made a mistake. Charge it to my head, not to my heart.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Charge it to my head, not to my heart. So Jesse knew something. Yeah, Jesse knew something about how to apologize. But we're in this moment now where people, I'm not naive, but it just troubles me that people can make mistakes in front of all of us in real time, and everybody can see that you're wrong. We can all see it was a mistake, and people like Kristi Noem just refuse steadfastly, repeatedly, to apologize in the spiritual realm. Talk to me about that.
Well, the issue here is it's very corporate, which is certainly the opposite of a spiritual mentality. It's the don't explain, don't complain mentality. It comes from a corporate attitude where the legal counsel, somebody's lawyer said, whatever you do, don't apologize because that's admitting it. Therefore, they will have a right to come after you in court or whatever. Yeah. Also, I think if anybody has seen the movie, and I think everybody should see it, The Apprentice, the story of Donald Trump's relationship with the lawyer Roy Cohn.
Roy Cohn,
because Roy Cohn is the one, Roy Cohn, I think,
Yep,
is the
that's
one
right.
who lured him into that deeply immoral space and taught him the rules of the game if you're playing that kind of neo-fascist if that's what you're doing. And part of it is never admit you were wrong, never admit you were wrong, never admit you were wrong. And at a certain point, and we've known that ever since, it even little things, it becomes part of the field you're playing in. Like even when Trump first won, Sean Spicer comes out, he says it's the biggest crowd that there ever was, right? And people showed him pictures, and Obama's crowd was much, much bigger than Trump's. And he just said it again, and he kept saying it and kept saying it and kept saying it. This is how fascism operates. So the idea is that they will simply exhaust us. So no, they're not going to apologize. And I think the most important thing is not just that they're not going to apologize. They're not going to stop doing it.
In 60 seconds, we got the rest of the half hour when we come forward here. But how do you big picture, how do you read this moment that we find ourselves in?
It is a catastrophe. It is a catastrophe. I'm looking at your face when I said that. The recognition, the deep, sober, grief-stricken, horrified look on your face is what any American with their eyes open, in touch with their hearts, feels. And then you get up, take a shower, get ready, and kick ass. It's both and. So I think that our capacity to recognize the profound danger of this moment is absolutely essential to our capacity to respond to it effectively. But we can't allow that to then take us spiraling down emotionally. That's why people like yourself are so important. That's why all of us who are saying, and now we are going to do blank, blank, blank. They are not mutually exclusive. I think that they are mutually inspiring, that you feel the pain of this moment, the sorrow of this moment, and then get moving and get moving fast.
It is a great setup to where we go when we come forward, letting her unpack her year-long journey into the mind of the miraculous. That was beautifully done, Marianne Williamson. You set me up quite nicely for that. When we come forward, we'll spend the rest of the hour talking again about this year-long journey, her journey into the mind of the miraculous. I can't wait to hear this from Marianne Williamson when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago is getting ready for a massive public memorial service for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson at the House of Hope. Here's Senior Pastor Charlie Dates on NBC Chicago.
His message was transcendent, that hope is universal and it is unfading and unending. So it's great that we get to celebrate him.
Former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden are expected to attend. The service starts tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who served under President George W. Bush during 9/11 and the Iraq War, says action in Iran was a long time coming. During an appearance on Fox News Wednesday, the black Republican said President Trump should take care of Iran for good, voicing her support for Operation Epic Fury. And Tyler Perry is partnering with Netflix for a new drama series called Where There's Smoke. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Clippers won their third straight game. They beat the Indiana Pacers Wednesday night 130-107 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 29 points and 8 rebounds for Kawhi Leonard. Darius Garland had 12 points and 8 assists off the bench. It was Garland's first home game for the Clippers since the February 5th trade that brought him to L.A. in exchange for James Harden. Garland had been sidelined for a month with a foot injury. The Lakers are at Denver tonight. The Lakers also have a 3-game winning streak. The Big Ten Conference Women's Basketball Tournament tips off today in Indianapolis. UCLA, the number 2 team in the country, is the number 1 seed in the tournament. The Bruins' first game is Friday at noon local time. They will meet the winner of today's game at noon between USC and Washington. All games in the tournament will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, get this. Now at Wendy's, you get to go biggie with new Biggie deals. That means going biggie with the $4 Biggie Bites, biggier with the $6 Biggie Bag, or biggiest with an $8 Biggie Bundle. So now you can choose and customize your Biggie deal. As you should. Sorry, I get fired up when I'm talking deals. More Biggie options so you can get more of what you really want at Wendy's.
Price and participation may vary. Single items at regular price. Prices may be higher in Alaska, California, and Hawaii.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40, and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required, and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Now at Big O Tires, for a limited time, get a free tire when you buy 3. That's right, buy 3, get 1 free. Valid on select tires with installation purchase. And synthetic oil changes start at only $39.99. Find your nearest store at BigOTires.com.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building. It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women. Are you ready? All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
To my ladies,
I'll show you
how to work that. Go.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in. But we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with our renowned author, a spiritual leader, former presidential candidate herself. Marianne Williamson is back, and if you missed the first half of our conversation, we had a spirited dialogue about a number of things, including the breaking news that Kristi Noem is out as Homeland Security Secretary. Marianne offered her own thoughts and reflections and appreciations of the late, great Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. So if you missed the first half of our dialogue, check out the podcast once it's posted later tonight so you don't miss any of this excellent conversation with Marianne Williamson. Again, the podcast, as you know, posted every night, so check out the first half of this conversation. But now we're on the backside of this hour with Marianne, and I want to give her all the space she needs to talk about, as I said earlier, this year-long journey into the mind of the miraculous. Take it away, Marianne.
Well, you know, you were talking earlier about James Carville saying at one point that maybe progressives should leave the Democratic Party. I think that another big mistake that was made, not just within the Democratic Party, but left-wing politics in general over the last few decades, very divergent from Martin Luther King, very divergent from Bobby Kennedy Sr. and so forth, is this almost condescension, paternalism towards people of faith. And once again, Martin Luther King was a Baptist preacher. The early days of abolition, obviously among black people, the black churches were so important. Even among white abolitionists, the early evangelical churches in New Hampshire were really the place out of which that began. Many of the women who were the leaders of the women's suffrage movement were the religious Quakers. And of course, Dr. King was a Baptist preacher. So the idea of, and once again, this is interesting because in Black America, because of the power of the black churches, there has not been this disconnection between progressive politics and the role of faith.
That's right.
But there has been far too much within the managerial, corporatized Democratic Party left wing, right? And I think that people, such as I think the success of James Tallarico is showing some of this, that people recognize what I think of as a kind of integrative approach to healing our society, just as you take an integrative approach to healing the body. It's your body and your mind as well as what you actually do. So I think that people are, I'm reminded of a quote from Martin Luther King. He said, "Power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic." If all we do is love, but we don't act on it for the purposes of brotherhood and justice, then it's a self-centered love that is only personal. Martin Luther King had said about Gandhi that he took love and turned it into a broad-scale social force for good. But a politics, particularly progressive politics, that doesn't recognize the internal dynamics that are going on beneath the surface, doesn't know evil when it sees it, and has less of a capacity to respond to it. So for me, my work in the spiritual realm, working on our own internal capacity. Martin Luther King, quoting Gandhi so often, said the first step in nonviolent political philosophy is self-purification, to refuse to hate those who hate you. Now, Martin Luther King also said, God said I have to love them. He didn't have to like them. So I think working all that out, learning what it really means to forgive, what it really means to stand with conviction in love. And this is a particularly important issue because conviction is a force multiplier. And those who hate today hate with great conviction. Those of us who love need to display as much conviction behind love as is now displayed behind those who hate. So the mind of the miraculous is the mind that recognizes the importance of who we are, not just what we do, that everything we do is infused with the consciousness with which we do it, and that our unwillingness to hate is what empowers us and does not disempower us.
So much there. I didn't want to interrupt. I'm glad you got that out. Let me go back to this integrative appeal, this integrative approach that you spoke of earlier. I'm all for that. It makes sense to me. I'm trying to juxtapose, and help me here, Marianne, this notion of an integrative approach like what we saw Tallarico do in Texas rather well to win this primary in the Democratic race for the Senate. In the race for the Senate, he beat Jasmine Crockett, as we know. But he used this integrative approach that you laid out earlier. I'm trying to juxtapose that, trying to square that, though, with this separation of church and state that we are taught. It seems these days that nobody's really respecting that, whatever that means, because the Christian right certainly does not. Tallarico, again, framed it in his own way. But can you square those two things for me, this integrative approach with this notion that we're supposed to, at least in this country, have a separation between church and state?
The freedom of religion, the establishment of the freedom of religion, was not an effort on the part of the founders to suppress the religious conversation in America. It was an effort to protect the religious conversation in America. You can be whatever religion you want. Government can't tell you to shut up. And if you don't want to pray or have a religious worship, that's okay too. Once again, not meant to shut you up. People of faith should have as much of a voice in public affairs as does anyone else. And the separation of church and state has to do with such things as you can be, there is no church, synagogue, mosque, AA meeting, or even young atheist meeting where you're going to have a policeman come in and say, break it up because you're not on the list. That's not going to happen in America. At least this is right. Exactly. Yeah. According to constitutional principle, that's not going to happen. And it also means no minister, priest, rabbi, mufti is going to come into the Senate chamber or the House chamber and say, and rip up a bill and say it doesn't fit in with our dogma. That's what the two parts that it was meant to play. The separation of the force of the government. But that was never meant to mean. You could look at, I think, a prime example is Lincoln's second inaugural. I mean, Lincoln's whole contextualization, as a matter of fact, the whole abolitionist movement during the Civil War, the whole argument about slavery was based on how you read the Bible. How you read the Bible. So in American history, and of course Dr. King talking, I mean, you can open up Testament of Hope anywhere. And I think that his daughter Bernice has been very adamant about this. She's been very adamant over the years that you're missing the power of my father's activism and philosophy if you leave out the fact that it was all based on his religious conviction. I think that also just in terms of the Democratic Party, I mean, James Tallarico is saying many things that are rightfully seen as the kind of marvelous new layer of understanding that can help Democrats win. And I myself have personally experienced anything along that line being called woo-woo or kooky or in whatever way used to diminish someone's candidacy and even diminish their message.
You said two things I want to just pick up on right quick, and when we come forward, I want to let Marianne go a little deeper for us. First of all, you're shouting out that book, A Testament of Hope. It's one of my favorite books. It's on. I've got a copy in every one of my libraries. I got libraries here in my buildings, libraries at my home. Every place I have a library, there's a copy of that book, A Testament of Hope.
Well, I hope your audience knows. Tell them what it is.
Well, you can tell them it's a powerful book. It's a collection of King's speeches, the best of King's
and writings.
King's speeches and writings, the best. It was curated by a guy named James Washington. James Washington was, for many years, the best friend of Cornel West. They taught together at Union.
Wow.
So Washington puts this book together. And not only do I have a copy of it, I've got multiple copies, as I said, but it's one of my prized possessions. I have one copy, the first copy I ever received of A Testament of Hope, the best of King's writings and speeches. I have signed at the time by every living member of the King family.
Wow.
And they signed it chronologically.
Wow.
Coretta signs first, then Yolanda, then Martin III, then Dexter, and then Bernice.
Wow.
Is one of my prized possessions. This book signed by every member of the King family except Dr. King.
Wow.
Family. So I love that book, and I go to it all the time for the best of King's words and his writings. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Second thing is, and I want to just phrase this right quick, frame this and let you respond when we come forward. I gave a speech some years ago that I thought about when you were talking, Marianne, and the theme of the talk was, it raised a question, essentially, whatever happened to the notion of love in our public discourse? That was my theme that day. The notion of love, whatever happened to the notion of love in our public discourse. As you have already eloquently described and explained and shared in this dialogue, King put love in the public square. Gandhi put love in the public square. The other great leaders around the world we could point to who were not afraid to put love in the public discourse, love at the center of the public square. My question then, which I'm not going to ask of you today, is whatever happened to that notion of love in our public discourse? And for me, when I say love, I just mean that everybody is equally worthy just because. So I mean by love, that every one of us is equally worthy just because, not because how much money you make, where you went to school, your pedigree. None of that stuff matters. We are all somebody's child, somebody's kid. We're all children of God. We are all equally worthy just because. Nothing else matters. That's what I mean when I say love. So the question for Marianne when we come forward is, whatever happened to the notion of love in our public discourse? You're listening to Marianne Williamson on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas.
Everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Created with a share of the 1984 Olympic Games surplus, LA 84 began operations in 1985 as a grant-making and educational foundation. Today, the LA 84 Foundation supports hundreds of nonprofit youth sports organizations throughout Southern California annually, trains coaches, commissions research, convenes conferences, and maintains the world's premier Olympic and sports library collection. They are transforming lives and communities through the power of youth sports. To find out about youth sports programs for yourself or your child, and to get information about the grants and support they offer to schools and nonprofits, or if you want to make a donation, please visit la84.org. That's la84.org. Or you can call them at 323-730-4600. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
I did the best I could, Marianne, years ago with that speech when I was addressing this question of whatever happened to the notion of love in our public discourse. I did my best then, but I know you can do better now. Talk to me.
Well, you were saying just now that to you, love means who we are is enough.
Yeah.
And I think we should remember that's the first principle in the Declaration of Independence, that God created all men equal, endowed by their Creator with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. The power of the Declaration of Independence, which is basically our mission statement, is that document, particularly that point that God created all men equal and that governments are instituted to secure the rights therein, is a spiritual as well as a political statement. Mm-hmm. And that's what gives it the power that it has. Mm-hmm. When I was in college, we read Ram Dass and Alan Watts in the morning, and we went to anti-war protests for the Vietnam War in the afternoon. People had not split into different lanes yet. I think it was mainly after the assassinations that people who wanted to go the traditional political route took the East Coast. Mm-hmm. People who wanted to go more internal change, that was going to be the foundational change of society. I always say it took the West Coast. Mm-hmm. Not exactly, but kind of, sort of.
I take your point.
So the point now is to put those two back together. When you mentioned that Martin Luther King, who of course went to India, studied the principles of Gandhi, brought them back for application to the civil rights movement, let's not forget the British being thrown out of India by that nonviolent revolution and the civil rights movement of the 1960s in America were the two most powerful revolutions of the 20th century. And they were not based on love in name only. They were based on the idea that the purification of the heart is an absolutely necessary element. One of the things that fascinates me is Martin Luther King said, we should overlook no opportunity for moral persuasion. Too many times lefties and progressives are only talking to lefties and progressives. And the only time we'll ever talk to people who are MAGA or conservatives is to insult them, put them down, or so forth. That's where we should be. But also, as Martin Luther King said, you have very little morally persuasive power with people who can feel your underlying contempt. So if I don't purify my heart of my sense that I know more than you and I'm better than you and you're dumb and you're wrong, you're not going to hear me. Yeah. And that's how a nonviolent revolution is practiced and perpetrated one conversation at a time as much as it is one outer form of activism at a time.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Marianne Williamson, we'll close telling you more about this year-long journey into the mind of the miraculous with Marianne Williamson. Yeah, she's doing some things live, some things online, but we'll let you get tapped in with the information you need to know about these sessions when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. At the heart of the Al Wooten Center's mission for good citizenship and academic excellence is a desire to ensure that every student avoids the kind of lifestyle and overcomes the kinds of challenges that led to the murder of Al Wooten Jr. In 1990, founder Myrtle Fay Rumpf opened the center in honor of her son's life. In 2026, they are serving more than 300 students in grades 3 through 12 annually online and on site at their youth center and other sites in the South LA area. The Al Wooten Jr. Youth Center takes a neighborhood approach to the revitalization and empowerment of a community in crisis. The Wooten Center provides free after-school and summer programs to help students in grades 3 through 12 attain grade-level proficiency and promotion, high school graduation, and college and career access and success. The Al Wooten Center focuses on academics, STEM, the arts, and so much more. Join them for an enriching experience that sparks creativity and nurtures young minds. Tap in at WootenCenter.org. That's WootenCenter.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Marianne Williamson. We were just talking during the break. I'm going to Chicago today for these services for Reverend Jackson. Marianne's going there on Saturday.
Yeah, to speak for the Women's International Day at a place called Altar there.
Yeah. And so we said we better check our phones, see what the weather's going to be.
Yeah.
Leaving California, should we check our coats? So here's the news I can give you. High of 46 today, low of 38. That's today. But Friday, high of 66.
I can't even believe what you're saying.
Saturday, 63.
Wow.
So maybe not too bad. All right, there you go. Anyway, that's the weather. I'm taking my coat anyway, just in case.
Absolutely,
and you should too, just in case. I got 3 minutes left. I'll give it all to Marianne. Tell me more about this year-long journey to the mind of the miraculous, and how folk can tap into what you're teaching.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, that particular online seminar class situation, if people are interested in the spiritual work, personal transformation, that can be found at Maryanne.com. And most of my political commentary is on my Substack, MarianneWilliamson.substack.com, my social media, and so forth. And to me, they're equally important today for all the reasons that you and I said. It's like in healing the body, It used to be that people didn't take care of their health, their nutrition, their exercise. They just hoped they didn't get sick. And then if they got sick, they took an external remedy in the hopes of eradicating or suppressing the symptom. It's now moved to an integrative model. If you really want to heal your body, you have to work on your mind, you have to work on your heart, your lifestyle, your emotions, as well as your physical body. And we have to take that same integrative approach to healing society. Understanding history, understanding a day like today, knowing what someone like Jesse Jackson stood for, knowing what the Declaration stood for, knowing what the Constitution says, knowing what the great social justice movements have been. It's extremely important to know our history and to prepare ourselves psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually for this moment, because it's a big moment. We have a lot of work to do.
It is a big moment, a lot of work to do. Here's my exit question. Didn't mean to step on you. What happens? What good can happen when we get inside the mind of the miraculous?
Well, we have conviction, number one, and you're serving the ages. You're not just after short-term gain. You are after the longer arc. Once again, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It's the job of every generation. You know, when you and I were younger, they used to use that phrase to form a more perfect union, that we're just part of the river of history here. Every generation is going to face the same struggle between the forces of democracy and the forces of oppression. 'Twas always thus. We were naive to think we had it handled and we didn't have to do so much anymore. You and I both grew up in homes where we were taught, don't kid yourself, they'll always be after us, one way or the other, right? So you are standing for a larger cause than just you, your family, your tribe. You're standing for the moral development of the species, really, particularly at this moment. And that gives you power, and that gives you conviction. And like I said before, it gives you the power to refuse to hate those who hate you, because that personal hate diminishes your power.
Marianne, I'm always delighted when you come by to see me. Thanks for checking on me, and it's good to see you and know that you're doing well and continue to do great work. Again, it's called A Yearlong Journey into the Mind of the Miraculous. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Tomorrow's Friday, so tomorrow's the best of Tavis Smiley on stations all across the country. If you're listening to our station in L.A. tomorrow, though, we will be preempted tomorrow in L.A. because we are broadcasting live the entirety of the funeral services of Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. So if you're in L.A. tomorrow, the entire service will be broadcast live on our station across the country, the best of Tavis Smiley, unless those local stations are running the funeral as well. Until tomorrow, thanks for listening, and as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Chicago is getting ready for a massive public memorial service for the late Reverend Jesse Jackson at the House of Hope. Here's Senior Pastor Charlie Dates on NBC Chicago.
His message was transcendent, that hope is universal and it is unfading and unending. So it's great that we get to celebrate him.
Former Presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden are expected to attend. The service starts tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, who served under President George W. Bush during 9/11 and the Iraq War, says action in Iran was a long time coming. During an appearance on Fox News Wednesday, the black Republican said President Trump should take care of Iran for good, voicing her support for Operation Epic Fury. And Tyler Perry is partnering with Netflix for a new drama series called Where There's Smoke. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio.
been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
Good afternoon. You have joined the J Lunch Club on KBLA Talk 1580. This is the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and I am Atiba, in today for Jesse Jackson Jr. Jesse is handling some things for the memorial service for his father tomorrow, and we are excited today to have 3 South Carolina representatives join us. Of course, the Jackson family and Reverend Jackson just arrived back to Chicago from South Carolina, where he was certainly welcomed as a favorite son. After a long career fighting for civil rights, Reverend Jackson was visiting his home for the one last time to lie in state at the South Carolina Capitol on Monday. And then the final hours from the state where he was born, it's a far cry from his childhood in the segregated Greenville, where in 1960, he couldn't go inside the local library's much better funded whites-only branch to check out a book he needed. Reverend Jackson led 7 Black high school students into that segregated branch, where they sat down and read books and magazines until they were arrested. And the branches closed, then quietly reopened for all. We start that off because we have joining us today the former president of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators, Representative Gilda Cobb Hunter. And we also have Representative John King, and we also have the Legislative Black Caucus Chair of the South Carolina Legislature, Annie McDaniel, who may be joining us later. When I think about the things that we have seen over the course of time and the things that happened over the course of Reverend Jackson's life and the African-American state legislators serving in the state of South Carolina, there are so many changes that we can say that have happened over the course of many, many, many decades. Representative Gilda Cobb Hunter is the first African-American woman elected to the state house from Orangeburg County in South Carolina. She is the former representative for South Carolina's 66th district, and following redistricting, and we hear this term a lot, redistricting, and the 2022 general election, she now represents South Carolina's House District 95. She is the first vice chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, and she has served in the South Carolina House of Representatives since 1992. Representative Cobb Hunter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Atiba. Thank you for having me.
So I assume that there may have been a lot of thoughts going through your mind with Reverend Jackson coming to South Carolina and the many things and issues even that you all still confront today within the legislature. Can you take us there as a legislator, what it was like for you with Reverend Jackson coming back home?
Well, I thought it appropriate. Reverend Jackson, of course, is a native son. And I was proud for for how South Carolina welcomed him. The services at the State House, where he was lying in state in the rotunda. For a minute, we were concerned that a lot of people may or may not show up. And all of us were just especially pleased to see the outpouring of love and support for Reverend Jackson, not just by South Carolinians, because as I walked the lines wrapped all around the state capitol. There were people in the line, not just from South Carolina, but there were folk who knew him in Chicago. One guy in particular that I spoke with lived in San Francisco, but he was a native of Chicago and wanted to come and pay his respects. People from all over the Southeast came. And of course, you are aware that Ambassador Andrew Young made the trip over from Atlanta. So it was really just heartwarming to see the outpouring of love and support for Reverend Jackson, and for me in particular, to